See, I do not, as you must have understood by now, I do not believe in any violence in any form being permitted by God to human beings to be committed against other human beings who are as much His creation. This is a basic principle which would not be violated. Logically, I do not believe that the swords or bullets or coercions or tortures can reach mind to change them and reach hearts to change them. These are superficial things. They can behead people, but cannot change the ideas in the heads. They can pierce the heart, but cannot convince the hearts. In fact, they create an opposite reaction to the direction of the force. So it's very foolish to try to change people's ideas and beliefs through the help of arms and weapons. Now here, your question has a slightly different connotation or character, because you are talking of a peace process in operation between Israelites and the surrounding Muslims in general, but particularly the newly born state of Palestine, Muslim Palestine. The question is, as I understand, how far terrorism can be permitted in this process and to whose advantage, or to what purpose, if at all. Is that right?
That's right.
Yes, that's right.
And bearing in mind the influence that it bears.
I think that this question is already answered in my previous reply and response, because terrorism is no valid currency in settling human affairs. And it has never been permitted by God. In the Holy Quran, it has never been practiced nor permitted even remotely by Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I give a very relevant example of Muslims who were left behind in Mecca while Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam had migrated to Medina. These Muslims repeatedly attempted to create some sort of noise in Mecca, to take their revenge and use force to make their beliefs known. Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam never permitted that, not once. His advice was that you have no right to disrupt the order even of a disorderly people. You know, those who have no right to sovereignty, genuine right, but as long as they are in occupation of that place, you have no right to disrupt their law and their peace, even in revenge. The only right you have is to do hijrah first and then attack from outside. And that is exactly what was done by these Muslims, the group of Muslims, which turned into a pain in the neck of the Meccans after they had migrated. You see, they created such problems because they occupied some strategic places between Meccans and their trade routes somewhere. And they sat and Meccans could do nothing. And they helped ultimately the cause of Islam after accepting the advice of Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, not otherwise. So if that is the case, if any Muslim country like Iran or others believe that there is enough justification to wage war against Israel, they have every right to do that if they believe. And if the cause is genuine, then they will be right in the sight of the whole world and Allah, of course. But to kill for the sake of a proposed revolution, expected revolution, which everybody knows will not happen, kill innocent people, kill children, bomb buses carrying small children to the schools, and other such acts of terrorism in which civilians' lives are destroyed just to deliver a message. I do not find any support anywhere in the teachings of Islam and the conduct of Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Again, it is suicidal because all through the history, the short history of Palestinian-Israeli struggle, it were these stupid attacks which gave a handle to Israel to go beyond all limits of revenge and punish the innocent Muslims living in Lebanon and elsewhere to an extent that it was just a slaughter like goats and more merciless than that. Many times it happened. Their houses were bombarded, their peace was destroyed. They always had the upper hand in this fight, never the underhand. So a double suicide. To act against the wish of God and yet use His name is a crime. To act against the ultimate interest of your own cause and your own people is sheer madness and suicide. But the ultimate course of history was also influenced in the wrong way. Because whenever they provided Israel with an excuse to hit back, it also gained more territories. And furthermore, at every encounter, it's the most tragic thing to read that history. One is shattered, as I have always been. During my speeches on Iraq-Iran war, I had to go through that punishment. And you see, a small Israel is given every opportunity, helped by the Muslims in the name of Islam, to go on hitting back and expanding their territory to 100 times more than what it was. Is this jihad? If it is jihad, it is not the same jihad which was permitted to Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, in which there was a promise, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى نَصْرِهِمْ لَقَدِيرٌ. There was God, having permitted them to go to that holy war and withdrawing Himself. In fact, this is a crime of insult against God, to call it a jihad. Because according to the Holy Quran, it is Satan who eggs people on to fight. And when the time of fight comes, he withdraws. Like it happened in case of Battle of Badr. And the Holy Quran records this. On the one hand, there was the promise of God. Go on, fight the enemy, although they are much stronger. I'll be with you. And he was. On the other hand, according to the Quran, it was Satan who was coaxing the Meccans on to this fight against the Muslims and promising all sorts of things. When they were locked in battle, he said, I'm withdrawing. I have nothing to do with it. Is this the God they believe in? What actually is happening is exactly the case to present God in an image like Na'uzubillah min zalik, Satan, who promises falsely, tells you it is jihad, go on and fight it out and I am behind you. And when you look back, you have no place to run to. All the support is withdrawn. So they are doing it to the ultimate destruction of whatever image of Islam is left there. And ultimate destruction of the Muslims' interest in those areas. This terrorism has given birth to another terrorism in Israel, which targeted the president, was it? Prime Minister, on last night. So it is war of attrition they're talking about. It is terrorism against all norms, against all ideologies of religion, against the dictates of common sense. And that will provide, ultimately, may coax Israelis and Americans and their patrons, ultimately, to give them another go at the Muslim states who are known to be responsible for this. And the ultimate result can be predicted, like it has always happened. They forget, and I would not like any Muslim to forget the fact that all their wars, whenever they go into war against an enemy, as they tell us, are based on the weapons which are manufactured by the enemies they are going to fight. The bullets are produced there. The modern forms of gunpowder are produced there. They beg them for weapons and they sell the hard-earned money of the country to buy those weapons at higher cost than the ordinary cost. Because the moment the Muslim countries go into war, in any war in fact, the prices of smuggling of weapons rises and spirals up, with the result that while they are exporting their oil at a much lower cost in terms of the returns, the weapons they get during those periods when they need them most could be bought ordinarily at 1/3, 1/4, sometimes 1/5 of the price of the weapons. So they sell their oil to these countries to buy cheap weapons. Which weapons? The ones which have already become obsolete. The ones, if the Muslims had not bought, would be dumped in the oceans. Because with the passage of time, the models come, new models are appearing every year. And they are never given such weapons which can turn the fate of a battle. Never. The result is that their defeat is already written. And in the name of jihad, who is murdered, who is destroyed? The common innocent people. The mullahs go on, haranguing them, calling them to jihad. And the ultimate result is that when all the dust is settled, you find there the Muslim bodies buried in the dust or lying open in the dust. Never have they changed the course of modern history, even by one iota. Which non-Muslim territories they have gained through wars? None. How many they have lost? So many. And they have destroyed the economy and the future of countries as big as Iraq by acting stupidly. So what we call for is wisdom. When God appoints His own leadership, those who reject that head will always act like a headless body. And that is the tragedy of the Muslim world today, unfortunately.